Vihaya kamanya sarvan. Vihaya kamanya sarvam. Come on, your chants, guys. Come on. Just make the sound that sounds like that. Vihaya kamanya sarvan. Pumams charati nishpraha. Charati nishpraha. Nirmamo nirankara. Nirmamo nirankara. Sasantim adigacchati. Sasantim adigacchati. Okay, we'll just go the meanings. Vihaya, giving up. Kaman, material desires for sense gratification. Yah, who. Sarvan, all. Puman, a person. Charity, lives. Nihaspraha, desireless. Nirmahma, without a sense of proprietorship. Nir ahankara. Nir means no. Ahankar means ego, right? Pride, proud. Without false ego. Sahe, santim, perfect peace. And adi gacchati means attains. I did tell you this is a special verse. If you want peace in your life, Krishna is going to be giving us some tips as to how to go about that, right? Because we all want peace and happiness, right? Good. So, translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada ki. Good man. Who's that? Or is it good lady? Wow, good girl. A person who has given up all desires for sense gratification. So here now, this is the best way to judge anything, or just like you're going to be hearing, to try and absorb Krishna's words, right? Because Krishna's words are special. So if you just give yourself, remind yourself, in this class, you need to be in your mindfulness, concentrating on what we are hearing. That is most important, especially because they're Krishna's words now. So translation is, a person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship and is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain real peace. I did tell you, Krishna is going to give us formula here for leading a peaceful life. And we'll go on about a little later about talking about how we do. But in the meantime, let's read purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada ki. Good, thank you. To become desireless means not to desire anything for sense gratification. So you'll see once we've read this, there'll be a talk about, they'd also tell us how we can use our senses and everything else, right? And how we can still have desires and be desireless. This is the beauty of Krishna consciousness, you know, that we can use everything and fulfill our desires, yet get to the goal of our life as well. So going into purport again, in other words, desire for becoming Krishna conscious is actually desirelessness, right? So the first line says to become desireless means not to desire anything for sense gratification. So if we're desiring something for our own sense gratification, that's not being desireless. In other words, desire for becoming Krishna consciousness is actually desirelessness, to understand one's actual position as the eternal servitor of Krishna without falsely claiming this material body to be oneself and without falsely claiming proprietorship over anything in the world, is the perfect stage of Krishna consciousness. One who is situated in this perfect stage knows that because Krishna is proprietor of everything, therefore everything must be used for his satisfaction of Krishna. Arjun did not want to fight for his own sense satisfaction, but when he became fully Krishna conscious, he fought because Krishna wanted him to fight. For himself, there was no desire to fight, but for Krishna, because Krishna wanted him to fight. For himself, there was no desire to fight, but for Krishna, the same Arjun fought to best of his ability. Desire for satisfaction of Krishna is really desirelessness. It is not an artificial attempt to abolish desires. The living entity cannot be desireless or senseless, but he has have to change the quality of desires. The materially desireless person certainly knows that everything belongs to Krishna. Who has heard of Ishavasyam Idam Sarvam? So anyway, we'll go into it a little later on once I finish purport. And therefore, what basically it means is Ishavasyam Idam Sarvam. It's the principle that everything in this world belongs to Krishna. So just that's what Krishna means from that, or we should understand from that. And therefore, he does not falsely claim proprietorship over anything. This transcendental knowledge is based on self-realization, which is the most important thing here, namely knowing perfectly well that every living entity is the eternal part and parcel of Krishna in spiritual identity, and therefore the eternal position of living entity is never on the level of great Krishna or greater than him. This understanding of Krishna consciousness is the basic principle of real peace, right? I'll repeat the last line. This transcendental knowledge is based on self-realization, knowing perfectly well that every living entity in the eternal part and parcel of Krishna in spiritual identity. And therefore, the eternal position of living entity is never on the level of Krishna or greater than him. And this particular understanding of Krishna consciousness is the basic principle of real peace. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjala Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yemana Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swaya Rupam Kadamahem Dadati Sa Padantikam Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Charu Swami Tinamine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. So who's going to tell me what do you know about chapter 2, the contents of Gita summarized? Do we know there's two people who's having conversation with? So who are the two words? Who's going to tell me? Hands up, please. Yes, very good. What's your name? Jyoti. Jolly. Oh, very nice. So there you go. So we all know this is the conversation. Bhagavad Gita means the song of God. And here Lord Krishna is instructing Arjun, who is very learned, just by dint of his being a friend of Krishna. But to teach us mortals, through Arjun, Krishna is now talking about what we ought to learn, right? So that's the key. So in this particular verse, I don't know if any of you have got this book, Bhagavad Gita, a short summary of acronyms. Is very good to remember and memorize what a particular chapter is all about. So here, I think this is by, well, he's called Keshav Maharaj now, His Holiness Keshav Maharaj. Beforehand, he was Sutapa Prabhuji, who was a resident monk here. So he says, contents of Gita summarized can be remembered by word Gita. So that's the easiest one to remember. We're talking about Gita and we're talking Gita. Gita, G for Guru, I for identity, two duties and Atmaram. So in this particular, just to give you a brief overview of this chapter, so it starts off by Arjun being very confused and saying, sorry Krishna, I don't want to fight. Because he humbly submits to Krishna, who at this point, from his friend, changes to his guru, right? Because a bona fide guru is something that we all need to desire for in our life, because a guru who is self-realized can impart that knowledge he's already researched about very easily to us in like bite-sized understanding, right? Hence the reason. So, just like Arjun submits humbly to Lord Krishna, because that's his guru, we also must have some gurus in our life. You know, guru is basically means an expert at something, right? That's what it means. So when you're growing up, they say mother is the guru, right? Similarly, when children are growing up, and if dad is very good at maths or any of the other teaching, dad's going to be the guru. When I first joined here, I didn't know anything. So then they were my friends. They were Shiksha Guru. Although I'm initiated by His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj. But before I got to that stage, we had so many kind Vaishnavas who were in my life as friends who actually brought us to that point. So they are also our Shiksha Guru. So we have so much to be grateful for in our lives. Like before I even got to that point, going back, I have my mom and dad to thank, right? My mom, dad brought me up and gave me the education with which I am then able to find in my life what is the goal of my life, right? So going back to what Krishna and Arjuna and the contents little overview here is then just like Arjuna accepted a guru, but it has to be bona fide guru. That means it's coming in a parampara. And it's guru you don't identify by just looking, because you have very many pretenders. I don't know if anybody heard my class yesterday. It was all about Krishna trying to teach us how to differentiate between a cheater who is outwardly dressed as a yogi, but deep inside his senses are always concentrating on the object of senses. And he's not a guru then, because he is a pretender. That's what Krishna said in 3.6, the class I gave yesterday. So today we know, guru we should just be hearing, and then we know whether it's the right person or not. And then it goes on, the verses 11 to 30 in Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 goes on about identity. Up till now, if you say to someone like, did you say your name was Steve? So if you look at Steve, we'll be like, hi Steve, that's it. You wouldn't actually know until it's been pointed out to us in Bhagavad Gita that guess what? Steve also has a soul. So in this chapter, Bhagavad Gita as it is, in this chapter, Srila Prabhupada is actually differentiating us from Deha and Dehi. So one who is owner of this body is not Steve. Steve is this body, of course, but he also has owner of this body, which is actually residing inside us in form of Paramatma. Because we are all part and parcel of good. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we are all have part and parcel of Krishna. So we have soul inside. So when you look at someone, we don't see two Steves, do we? But we know, this is why we always say namaste, that, or we saying Hare Krishna. And in Krishna conscious philosophy, you'll see they are all kind to, starting from animal to the yogi to anyone else, because our respects are due, because soul is soul, right? Irrespective of whether it's in this person or that person or Indian or American. I mean, this is truly United Nations of India here. You can see however many nationalities come here. No one has problems with anyone, because everyone respects for whatever stage of Krishna consciousness they are at, right? And our duty is to just respect. But the soul inside us is the important element of our life, because if I was to die, even if my body is here, you'll say Vrinda Vilasini is gone. She's no more. But guess what? Vrinda Vilasini's body is here. If I was the only body, then why am I here? So in this particular chapter, Krishna teaches us about the identity. So don't just think, I am this body. Guess what? You are much more than this body, right? So that's the thing to remember. And always remember, whatever you feed the soul, whichever side you feel, because we all have good in us, we all have bad in us. If we feed the good side, we'll automatically would be nicer. If we're feeding the bad side, that's why they say association is so important. That's why we come to do what? Darshan of Krishna. Because what we're doing, when we are transferring our senses on to Lord Krishna, we are actually imbibing some of the qualities. Right? So that goes on till verse 30. Then in the third part of this chapter, Krishna is trying to tell us about two of our dharmas. Who's going to tell me the names of these two dharmas? Now those are important to everyone, irrespective of whether you're Christian, whether you are Jew, whether you are Hindu, whether you are Hare Krishna, whether you are Muslim, you anything. Two duties which are very, very important. Who's going to tell me? It starts with S. Go on. Huh? Very good. So what's your name? Mansi. Oh, wow. A big round of applause for Mansi, please. So Mansi, you want to tell me what does Swadharma mean? Yes. So it's your Swa means yourself, like me, mine. So as a, like I grew up to be my dad's daughter. My dad's name is Purushottam Das Sharma. So he gave birth to Vandana, that was my name before initiation. So my duty towards him is that of a daughter initially, because that's what I was to my mom and dad. Then you move on to duty, I'm Rajesh Krishna's wife, so my duty is to him as a wife. I have certain jobs to do. Then I became a mother, so I've got 2 boys, and they're luckily grown up now, and one of them has made me very happy. I've just become a grandma, by the way, on 5th of June, so thank you so much. We've got a beautiful grandson called Jainitai, so yeah, so our duty is towards our children. So this is your Swadharma. But then again, if we don't just carry on being a housewife, daughter, wife, whatever else your designation may be, when would we ever find time for Krishna? Are we ever going to find time for Krishna? Those of you at the back can tell me, and you grandparents, it only gets worse and worse and worse for time. There's no time. When we're student, we think, oh, I need to study this, I need to get going, right? I need to get score. But, so the second dharma that they talk about is Sanatan Dharma. So Swadharma is something that you need to carry on because that's what you're meant to be there doing. But at the same time, you can't ignore the most important thing, which is Sanatan Dharma, which is what you said, is eternal Dharma. Dharma doesn't mean anything in terms of like religion. It can also be used as intrinsic quality or like something that you're known for. Say water. The quality of water is going to be quenching your thirst, right? So that's the dharma. That word can be used for that. So we've got 2 dharmas, Sanatan Dharma and Swadharma. So please carry on with Swadharma. Don't let us hear that, oh, my mom started going to Hare Krishna temple and guess what? She doesn't cook for me, or she doesn't teach me, she doesn't take me to music lesson because all she wants to do is, oh, I just want to go to Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. It doesn't work like that. Krishna tells you in the next chapter about Karam Yoga. They're saying to you, don't give up what you're doing. Don't give up your jobs, please. Don't think that you can give up everything and just be having a nice, leisurely life of a devotee. No, you have to incorporate everything whilst you're doing your karma, right? Your jobs, your responsibilities, and everything included. Then we move on to the part which I'm meant to be giving class on, and that part is 54 to 74. In there, they're saying, what is the result of someone who performs such duties with determination and enthusiasm? So anyone who's doing Swadharma and Sanatan Dharma with enthusiasm and with sincerity, that particular person becomes Atmaram. Now, Atmaram means, as the word goes, Atma means soul. Ram is basically used as someone who is fully satisfied or content within themselves, right? So they don't really need artificial things. They don't need to have perhaps designer bags, posh cars, posh aeroplanes, and all these things in their life. If it's there, great. Use it for Krishna. But their ego, everything else is not hurt in any way because they know that they are not the important person, because we are the actual, we are using this life in service of Lord Krishna. So if I have a Rolls Royce, I should use that for serving Lord Krishna. There's no problem. We also, by default, get, right? So if you like cheesecake, for example, you have cheesecake, you buy it, or you can make it at home. But what Krishna conscious people do is, if they've bought it or they've made it, they'll first offer it to Krishna. So by dint of just offering it to Krishna, it's not like Krishna takes hold of your cheesecake and you're left with nothing. Is that what happens when you offer? No. Because Krishna has got all these body parts which are complete in themselves. We can't compare with Krishna. We cannot imitate Krishna, because Krishna can eat from eyes, he can eat from mouth, he can eat from ears, he can just glance at it and it's deemed offer. So we still be having that same cheesecake, but this time it's become special because it's a sanctified food. It's become prasad. Similarly with water, with flour, with fruits, anything you like, Krishna knows you're buying it, because you also want to have, but if you buy it with the thought of pleasing Krishna, then it becomes prasad. And we don't actually get entangled. Why do we need to do this? So we need to do this because if I read this verse out to you, which is what we read, so this particular verse is called 4.9, and here it tells you, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yoveti tatvata tvaktva deham punarjanma neti mam eti sorjuna. So basically the translation says, this is the reason why we need to bring Krishna into our life, yeah? One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance, meaning when it's a capital M, that means we're talking about the Lordship. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not upon leaving the body take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So he's telling Arjuna why we should do this, because this is the promise Krishna is making us, that if you actually talk about my form, you get to know me, that you don't have to go through this cycle of birth and death and disease and old age. Because there's so many scientists in this world. You tell me one scientist who has actually got a cure for death. Anyone? They can prolong it. Can they stop you from getting old? Michael Jackson had so much money. Could they stop him from getting old? Well, bless him, he's obviously not got that chance, but it happened how it happened. So just because you've got money does not buy you happiness. Just because you've got beauty, that does not buy you happiness. Just because you've got a mansion, it does not buy you happiness. Why? Because the intrinsic quality of your being is missing. When you do a little bit of charity, do you feel good in yourself? Yes? It's a pleasure, isn't it, when you give something to someone. I took, like one of the boys, he came to stay with us when my son had his baby, and the Guru Maharaj was visiting. He was a bit stuck, so he stayed at mine. And when he was leaving, he left 20 pounds for my Radhe Shyam Sundar. So I texted him, I told him off that he shouldn't have, but anyway, because he left it, and I don't want his money going wasted. So I I bought some really nice mangoes for Krishna. Jagannath Ji likes, we got Jagannath Ji as well. Made some mango shake, got some watermelon, made them really ice cold, and then offered it to Krishna. Then I sent him the pictures. So do you think he'll be pleased that he actually parted from something, but it's been gone on for a good use, because it's been used by Krishna, it's been used by Lord Jagannath Ji, right? So whenever we are helpful, it's good to be pious. Please don't understand. We need to do all these pious activities, and because then we become a responsible member of society. And when you become Krishna consciousness, all these other things automatically come in you, because you're going to be helping the society, because you won't be lying, you won't be thieving, you won't be religion's telling you don't lie, don't do this, don't do thieving. All these things are becoming part of, and then you automatically become a better helping the society, because you're being responsible and helping the society as well as helping your own self, which is the most important thing to do, because it's your Sanatan Dharma to look after your own interests. It's no point if I'm just going to be doing one thing and not the other. Like a train, one wheel is going to be imbalanced. So we need to do that. So in this particular verse, in 71, Krishna is saying that if you want peace, then what do you have to do? So a person who has given up all desires for sense gratification. So like I wanted to have mango shake, but what did I do? I got the mangoes, I offered it to Krishna by making shake, then I had it. So I still had the same thing, but I didn't do it just for my senses. I did it for Krishna's senses. So that's also, we are so lucky. Krishna, Srila Prabhupada has pointed out such a great process for us. All we have to do is he's given us various processes, and mainly is like, as long as we are offering Krishna something and then having it, or if we are listening that about Krishna, automatically that's Krishna consciousness. You're serving Krishna by just hearing, right? I did say I want everyone in their mindfulness. We want all our minds focused because we're talking about Krishna here, right? We do it at work. We do all these various things to, chair yoga, this mindfulness, all these different seminars, webinars, and all these things. But the most important thing is how you're going to get yourself out from this cycle of birth, death, and disease, and old age. And because that's going to cause you misery. And we want to be happy. So we can be happy temporarily by doing something. But do we just want temporary happiness? When you go to holiday for 5 days, it's brilliant, isn't it? Change is as good as holiday, right? They say. But eventually, what do you have to do? Come back from holiday, go back to the same old work, and then before you know, they put you in deep end and you've forgotten you've had a holiday, right? So this is the cycle that we all go through. So we all work, we have to work. We earn money, we try and offer a little bit of that money to Krishna, or Krishna's devotees, or for any other pious things you think. But important thing to remember is that we don't want to do certain things which are called karm bandha fansa. See, persons who are entangled in the fruitive activities, they are bound to accept one body after the other. That what we know. And hence the reason we say keep away from fruitive activities. Oh, I will do this yajna. Oh, I will do this thing to get a nice house. Or I will do this yajna. I'll go to this pandit to say, can you give me upay? Because give me a solution so I can do this, that, the other. But anything you ask for in this life, is it ever going to stay with you forever? Please tell me. It's not. Beauty fades, right? Money goes. Houses exchange the title deeds from one to the other when you leave, in your legacy or in your will. Everything is temporary. You think about anything. Pain, on the other hand, Krishna has given us this body because we like his children. We don't want to forget Krishna. So we don't want to be entangled in pious and impious activities because both cause for further entanglement in this material body. What we want to do is we want to transcend. We don't want to be transmigrating. Okay, I've got a lucky to be having a human form, but tomorrow I may not be praying to Krishna. I may not be doing anything to enhance my spirituality. Then what happens? You've got a chance, because Krishna is saying in one of the verses in Bhagavad Gita, I think it's 8.5, that at the time of death, whatever you are remembering, that body, we all know the story about deer, and do we know that story? Where this guy, what would you tell me? Tell me a little bit about that. What do you know? You know he's thinking about deer. Rajesh, you know? Yeah, Bharat Maharaj. Bharat Maharaj, what was he doing? He fell in love with the deer because the deer was being abandoned and he didn't want to abandon. He ensured that he wanted to look after him. And slowly, without knowing, he developed attachment. Hence the reason we don't want to do something for ourselves. We always want to do it for Krishna. So when you become attached to Krishna, all the activities that you're going to do, whether they are pious, impious, would be, but as long as Krishna is in center, then you don't get karma with it that comes free, entanglement. So for example, like say people, nowadays we're very lucky, we got meatless this, we got chickenless fillets, we got fishless fish and all sorts. But the person that say eats meat, the karma then they get entangled in, not just that person who's eating it, but the person who gives permission for killing, right? The permission, the person who then kills, then the person who actually helps them transport to wherever, then person who purchases it, and whoever's money is being used, and then someone who cooks it, and what to say for the person who eats it, yeah? So karma is so intricate, gunas, these are so intricate that you cannot, once you are in this material world, you would be subjected to that. So what we need to do is come out of that platform onto a platform called Brahma Jigyasa. You start off by asking questions. Who am I? Am I just meant to be like animals, have sleep, eat, earn a living, and that's that? We don't want to be doing that because animals can do that. How are we different? Humans are different because we need to use our intellect. What do we need to do? We need to look for pure knowledge because that's something that differentiates us from animals, right? So pure knowledge. What is knowledge? When you know your stance, your position as compared to Srila Prabhupada says to Krishna, that's complete knowledge. Because then you know, why is Krishna brought me into this life? Why I must have done good pious activities, then he's made me have birth in an educated family or given me education. Should I be proud of that or should I be humble and thanking him and actually serve him? If I'm very beautiful, then is that something to do with me? No, it's to do with pious activities that's been performed previously in the life, right? So whatever we've got, whatever we have, whatever we possess, we need to be grateful to Krishna for someone who's given it. This is Ishavasim principle, that everything and anything, because nobody created air. I might say, okay, my son had grandson, so I created him, so should I be proud? No, because when you keep going back like that, who's created someone? There's original being, Brahma, before that Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, for those reasons, what we need to do is, yes, I should have attachment to my grandson, but then I should also be thinking, well, he is devotee of Lord. I have a certain responsibility as a grandparent now, that I need to bring up my child, to my grandchild, to be a good devotee of Krishna, because otherwise I've given him nothing. I can buy him a PlayStation 5 or whatever number it's at. That's going to give him temporary happiness. But do we want to give him permanent happiness? Permanent happiness comes from, we spoke. When you are desireless, but desireless doesn't mean that you don't do anything. I just gave you an example that you can still eat. You can still play. Now we have dramas here. You still go to all these classes. You go to, we've got Kirtan in Haveli weekend, holy name. You still immerse yourself into concerts. We're not missing out on anything, In fact, your taste, it becomes a higher taste, because then you like to do much more than just sit in front of television. Just go to beach and just be getting sunburned there. No, I prefer to do something else. It's nice to have a little break in garden, and there's no problem with going to seasides. Kids love it. Why not? But at the same time, you've got to keep the balance in your life, that where is my life going? How can I increase my spirituality? If where there's will, there's way. So if you wanted to do something, you got Guru Google, right? You find out. Similarly, on the website of Manna website, Bhaktivedanta Manna website, they give you beautiful collection, the whole process. There's 9 processes. If you don't like to be serving like pujaris, they have to be altar clean. That means you can't go wee, you can't go loo, you can't drink water, you have to be having a shower, then do service. And if it takes them 3-4 hours for pleasure of Krishna, they're doing it. Maybe that's not for you. Maybe you can go and help with the Goshala, where they're tending the cows. Maybe you can go and help in the farms where they're planting some stuff and help the environment too. So this is what I mean. When you become Krishna consciousness, everything else also gets served. It's like to serve our senses. If I'm really hungry, I don't feed my eyes, I don't feed my ears, I don't feed my hand. The hand feeds my mouth. And guess what? Slowly, slowly, when I've finished eating, I automatically become detached from hunger. Similarly, by serving Krishna, all our demigods and all the other gods are served, all our society needs are met, because you are trying to do the highest welfare for the human beings here. So there's so many processes. It's like we know, Rajesh Krishna, how many processes are there? 9, yes. So what are they? So you could be doing Vandanam, there's so many, like 9. You can actually Google these days Veda base. On my phone, I have Veda base, and I have all of Srila Prabhupada's books there. So when I'm stuck in traffic or anything, Bluetooth it to my car, hear it. You've got to snatch moments so that you can use the moments you can't do anything else. Guess what? You can still be Krishna conscious because you're hearing Srila Prabhupada's lectures, or you're hearing Srimad Bhagavatam audio books. There's so much more that Srila Prabhupada has brought us. So I say, today you guys have done really well. You've actually given me both your full attention, not me, because it's Srila Prabhupada's temple, it's Krishna's books. So whatever we're talking about, anything good, anything useful you found, it's to do with Srila Prabhupada's efforts. Nothing to do with me, nothing to do with any of us, because we are just reading from his books. So all the knowledge is there. So let's make this life successful by using his books. We always like to say here, please do ABC of Krishna consciousness. A stands for, everybody must have heard this now. We say it so often. Come on, Roy, you want to say it? Rasika, Shekhar? Okay. Get somebody else to. So anyone else? A stands for, Prabhuji? What is A stands for? You doing what? Association of Krishna? Exactly. So association of Krishna. If you can't have association of Krishna, Krishna's devotees, they are there. They can give you knowledge. They've spent lots of time researching. If you can't have association of devotees, Krishna's books, you can have association of Srila Prabhupada through his books. Yes? And if you can't do anything else, go on the website. They actually do brilliant courses here. Starts off with Gita Life. It's only a 6-week, but it's only one Sunday for 3 hours. If you're able to commit that kind of time just to understand basic, because Bhagavad Gita is, of course, very nice to read. Every time you read, you learn more and more and more. But it's like going to physics university. If you have a lecturer who would make you understand something, it's so much easier, so much nicer, and there is so much rasa in it. So there's so many courses that's run by School of Bhakti. Then they also have Sangha programs. So you can actually have a mentee. And we've got amongst ourselves, Mataji, please say your name. Sorry? Right. Palika Devi Dasi Mataji is also a mentor. So what she does is she kindly gives her time for free, doesn't get paid. It's voluntary service to assist people in their new attempt to become more spiritual. They read together, they have any questions, they get together. Again, association comes into it, prasad comes into it. So it's very interesting. So there is that way. If that's not enough, there's all these other jobs I spoke about, So our basic thing is that we need to actually give up we call something called Kuta Dharma. Kuta Dharma, it's pseudo duties. And as long as, and it's compared to a black, dark well, Andha Kupam. We don't want to go there because when we fall in a well where nobody can hear us, there's no hope of getting out. So this life we've been given thanks to Krishna, thanks to your parents, thanks to your guru, thanks to everyone else that you can think of. Please use it for something more than just what people tend to do in this materialistic life, just be having sense enjoyment, which is temporary, and then it fizzles out, and it's back to square one. Let's go for permanent happiness. Like in this verse, let's just become desireful to do something for Krishna, to have desires to serve Krishna, whichever way. You could just be singing bhajans, you could be you could be reading from Bhagavad Gita. There's so many ways I like mentioned. Please, when you Google it'll tell you. These days, like if I need to Google something, what are our kamendriya, like these are the knowledge acquiring senses. So eyes, ears, nose, tongue, touch, all of these give you knowledge. So you can actually Google anything these days. Like I say, Google's also guru. The only trouble is he's not bona fide, right? It needs to be in parampara, otherwise you could have probably said. But we can use the technology for our thing. So I'm going to finish it off here. And if you have any questions, we've got 5 to 7 minutes. And I could attempt to answer those for you. Or you may have a comment, or you may want to tell me why you come, what gives you, what is so special about Radha Gokulanandaji here that gives you peace that you come to have. And anyone? Right. No one? So, okay. In that case, I will just say, okay. What's your name? Oh, sorry, of course. I'm so sorry. Yeah, B is for books, which I've talked about. And C is for chanting. And D is for dancing. So what we do here when you come in the morning, B is for books, like we're reading from it now. And was it really boring? I know I could be boring, but did you really feel you did waste your time 1 hour? No, because we're talking about Krishna. The more we hear, the better we like it. And C is chanting. So let's just finish off this on chanting. What's that? P. So P, Rajesh Krishna says, don't forget P, Prasadam, because everybody must take Prasadam, because that's the big part of Hare Krishna, because Srila Prabhupada is so kind to us. He's given us a foolproof way of following Krishna consciousness, engaging our senses in serving the lotus feet of Krishna, in which we will be singing. Everyone likes to sing. Everyone likes to dance, but we don't go to clubs, but we dance here. And people have to be under intoxication to dance. We dance here in the morning. Have you seen these brahmacharis and all these ladies